She was 21 and full of big dreams. She was studying nursing to help people heal. Then one ordinary morning changed her entire life. She woke up and her legs were gone. Most people would have quit right there. Most people would have said their life was over. But she looked at the ceiling and decided this was not how her story would end. This is the story of Shima Nixon, a woman who lost everything in seconds and spent 10 years building something greater, not just for herself, but for others. Shima grew up in Williamstown, North Carolina, a small quiet town where everyone knew everyone. From a young age she cared about people. Her dream was always to work in healthcare. After high school she enrolled in nursing school. She was determined, driven and full of hope. She had her whole future mapped out clearly. Then came March 2013. It started as a completely ordinary Tuesday morning. Shima was driving when her car suddenly died. She pulled over and got out to check. That is the last memory she has. An oncoming car struck her with full force. The impact was catastrophic and nearly fatal. She was rushed into emergency surgery immediately. Her family sat outside and waited and prayed. For 3 long days Shima did not wake. Her mother held her hand every single hour. Friends and family filled that hospital waiting room. Nobody knew if she would survive. When Shima finally opened her eyes she froze. The room was quiet and everyone was watching. She looked down slowly without anyone saying anything. And she understood everything without a single word. One leg had been amputated above the knee. The damage to her body was irreversible. She was 21 years old with no legs. And the life she had planned was gone. The days that followed were the hardest ones. Learning to exist in a body felt foreign. Learning to accept help for the simplest things. Learning to look in the mirror without breaking. Rehabilitation began slowly and with tremendous pain. Every small movement required enormous courage and effort. There were days the grief was suffocating. There were nights she questioned if it mattered. But Shima had something many people do not. She had a family that refused to leave. They showed up every single day without fail. Their love became the floor she stood on. In November 2013 something important happened. Shima was fitted with her very first prosthetic. Her prosthetist Stephen Shope helped her try to stand. She had no idea what to do next. Stephen looked at her and said, "Forward, just put one foot forward." It sounds so simple when you hear it. But for Shima in that moment it was everything. The first steps were slow and terrifying. She fell and got back up again. Then she fell again and got up again. Each time she rose something grew stronger inside her. She went from wheelchair to 2 canes. Then from 2 canes down to just 1. Then one day she forgot her cane entirely and realized she had not needed it at all. She went back to school and did not stop. She finished her associate degree with full determination. It was there she met her best friend Ariel. 2 women who saw the best in each other. Then Shima transferred to Georgia Southern University. She earned her bachelor's degree in recreational therapy. She was rebuilding her life brick by brick. Year by year she was becoming herself again. But the accident had not finished with her yet. Over time damage to her other leg grew worse. Eventually doctors said there was only one option left. Shima became a double amputee, both legs gone. Most people hit one wall and stopped forever. Shima hit 2 walls and kept moving forward. Because she had already learned the hardest lesson. The body can do more than the mind believes. She discovered wheelchair basketball and joined the team. She found joy in movement she thought was gone. Sports gave her back something the accident had taken. It reminded her that her body was still powerful. She started visiting new amputees in hospitals. She would sit beside beds just like hers. She showed up as living proof of possibility, that the worst day was not the last day. She would look at patients terrified and lost, and she would say nothing at first. She would just walk in on her prosthetic legs, and let them see what was possible. One day at work she saw a male patient. He had lost a limb and looked completely lost. She wondered if he was getting the right care. And something shifted deep inside her that afternoon. She realized recreational therapy was not her final destination. There was somewhere she was truly meant to be. She had been preparing for something bigger all along. She just had not seen it clearly until now. She looked at the field of prosthetics and orthotics. Only 2% of certified clinicians are African American. 2% in a field that helps limb loss patients, who are disproportionately people of color in America. She saw the gap and she made a decision. She was going to become a prosthetist herself. Not despite losing her legs, because of it. In 2020 during a global pandemic she applied. She applied to graduate prosthetics and orthotics programs. She was accepted to multiple schools across the country. But one stood far above all the rest. Alabama State University had something no other school had. It was the only HBCU with a prosthetics program. Her purpose was never just about getting a degree. It was about showing others the door existed. She applied for the Hunger Foundation Diversity Scholarship, the same organization that built her very first legs. Now they were funding her entire education. The circle of that was not lost on her. She moved to Alabama and threw herself into the work, studying the most complex biomechanics of the human body, while living daily inside the very body she studied. Her professors had read about her experience in textbooks. Her classmates rallied around her every single day. Her professors pushed her harder than anyone else. Her boyfriend Chris, also a prosthetist, understood completely. And her family never stopped believing for 1 second. The class elected her their president. She sat in clinic hours building the very devices. The same devices that had given her back mobility. Now she was the one building them for others. May 5, 2023 was the day she had waited for. 10 years of fighting had led to this moment. Shima Nixon walked across the stage at Alabama State. She walked on 2 prosthetic legs she had earned. The auditorium was packed with everyone who loved her. Family, friends, professors, mentors, classmates, all of them there. Many were crying before she even reached the stage, because they knew every step had cost her something. she received her Master of Science diploma in prosthetics and orthotics from Alabama State University. The dream she had carried for 10 full years was finally real, and she was finally holding it. As class president, she stepped to the microphone. She looked out at her graduating class slowly. She had carried their shared journey in her heart. She paused, she smiled, and she said just this: "We are here, we made it." 4 words that carried the weight of 10 years of pain. NBC Nightly News aired a full segment on her. Millions of Americans watched Shima walk across that stage. Phones lit up with messages from complete strangers, from amputees, from parents, from young black students. She told NBC everything on her journey was worth it. She said she was glad it happened, because it pushed her outside her comfort zone and let her be part of something bigger. Then came the milestone that stopped everyone in their tracks. Shima Nixon became the first black female certified clinician in the United States who is also a bilateral amputee, the first in the entire history of this country. Let that sink in for just one moment. In a field that exists specifically to help people like her, she was the very first in the entire history of America. June 5th, she started her residency at Hanger Clinic, Miami, the same organization that had built her first prosthetic legs. Now she would be the clinician in that room. Now she would be the one building legs for others. Before graduation, she had reached out to find Stephen Shope, the prosthetist who told her to put one foot forward. She had not spoken to him in nearly a decade. He still worked at Hanger Clinic. They reunited in person at Hanger's annual conference. The man who taught her first steps, and the woman who had just changed American medical history, standing together again after 10 long years. On her first day, a new amputee came in. The patient was scared and completely uncertain. Exactly how Shima had felt 10 years before. They looked up and saw their clinician walking in confidently on 2 prosthetic legs, and something shifted in that patient's eyes. That shift is what Shima had worked 10 years for. Not the degree, not the title. That look on the patient's face that says, if she can do it, maybe I can too. That is the whole reason. That is the entire point of everything she built. Representation in medicine is not just symbolic. It is clinical. It changes outcomes. When a patient sees someone who lived their pain, trust builds, healing deepens, hope becomes real. Black Americans face higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of vascular disease, higher rates of conditions that lead to amputation. Yet 2% of their clinicians look like them. Shima said she does not mind standing in the gap, being the blueprint for others to follow, showing amputees, females and African Americans everywhere that the positions you don't see yourself in matter most. She said, "Once I become a prosthetist, my patients will be grateful their clinician not only looks like them, but is like them." Those words carry a decade of lived experience. Think about what it took to build this life. A 21-year-old wakes up with her world destroyed. Instead of asking why me, she slowly asks what now. That shift is one of the rarest things human can do. It does not happen overnight. There were dark nights when grief was total, when the future was completely invisible from where she stood. Resilience is not no pain. It is moving through it. And Shima moved one foot in front of the other every single day. Through grief and rehabilitation and graduate school and history, she moved all the way to the front of the room. Her story asks something of every single person watching. It asks us to look at what we have given up on. Because if she could lose both legs at 21 and become the first in American history, what is your excuse? The accident happened in March 2013. Her graduation was May 2023. 10 years. 10 years of one foot in front of the other. If you are watching this in a hard season, if you are in the hospital bed right now, if you are starting completely over from nothing, this story was made for you. Because Shima Nixon was exactly where you are today. And look at where she walked to. One foot in front of the other. That is all it ever takes.